Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 10 minutes to 1. Now, some Scottish primary schools are appointing children, primary school children, as LGBT champions. They're being urged to ask pupils as young as 4 if they're gay, lesbian or transgender.
Documents suggest that schools have been setting up LGBT clubs as part of their membership of a scheme run by the charity LGBT Youth Scotland.
Well, the charity reportedly received £1 million of taxpayer money last year and also urges head teachers to mark Transgender Day of Remembrance, as well as installing gender-neutral loos.
We can now speak to Dean Thomson, who is a writer for Think Scotland. Thank you for joining us, Dean.
Thank you for having me.
So explain to us a little bit more about this organisation that these schools are part of this scheme. Can you tell us a bit more about what it is that they're actually asking schools to do and why people are objecting so strongly to that?
The LGBT Youth Scotland is an organisation that has, like you said, received £1 million from taxpayers, 450,000 from the Scottish Government, 340,000 from councils that are cash-strapped, and £154,000 from the NHS boards. Now, part of what they're talking about is LGBT. This should not be seen as just going into schools and saying, being gay is normal, I'm gay. I would not have an objection to if that were the case. It's part of has been alleged as part of an ideological push to promote LGBTQ plus trans ideological and policy commitments that are more reflective of the political priorities of Holyrood, and sort of cut against some of the concerns that were raised, say, in the Cass review about clinical foundations not being as robust as they should when we're dealing with gender children who are not psychologically and developmentally fully formed yet. And the whole range of sort of policies that are being promoted in the schools include getting higher marks if you have gender-neutral bathrooms and things. And it's quite a broad ideological policy agenda in the schools.
It's very curious, this, because I don't think a single soul on this planet should oppose people teaching that some people have 2 mums, some people have 2 dads. But this is something very different. This is asking children to sort of be almost advocates, political representatives themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as someone who is gay myself, I can guarantee that I was not fully aware of my own sexuality, as it were, until I was beginning at secondary school. So the idea that a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old can see and fully comprehend and understand the difference between gay, transgender, questioning, non-binary is for the birds, and it's highly questionable how much of this is motivated by best practice in terms of policy. I mean, the Scottish Government, and I've written articles, I think, Scotland in the past in relation to GRR reform. There's real evidence and real science in regards to the whole gender debate in Scotland about policy being the result of policy capture by special interest groups, which of course undermines the robustness of policy and public confidence in the democratic outcomes that we see from Holyrood in terms of legislation. And LGBT Youth Scotland as a charity organisation itself, it should be underscored that in the past, this is an organisation that had to self-refer itself to Police Scotland in the past over historical allegations of abuse. So it is highly questionable why they're receiving such a volume of money, taxpayers' money, in order to promote political and ideological commitments in what are schools. And in terms of the whole panoply, this is, of course, in the background of the Scottish Government's U-turn in relation to this Sandyforth clinic, which has now said that they're not going to be giving out the hormone blockers to anyone under 18. This is, of course, in light of the Cass review. And the Scottish Government initially responded with...
Yes, Dean, it seems that the Scottish Government is very confused and all over the place on this issue. What do you think it is about the Scottish Government over the last couple of years that seems to have gone fairly doolally over these things?
internal SNP problems, it's entirely political. The first Hamza Yusuf, when he became First Minister, he went out of his way to say, I'm Mr. Continuity, I'll promote Nicola Sturgeon's legacy. He alienated Kate Forbes and that whole more sceptical wing of the party in relation to the gender politics. And he is pretty much dependent, he's put himself where he's dependent on the Scottish Greens in government to support himself as First Minister, because there's a lot of pushback with Fergus Ewing, Kate Forbes, within the SNP more generally, and grassroots concerns. So he's landed himself in a position where the Scottish Greens are really driving a lot
Dean,
of
I'm
this.
afraid we are running to the end of the hour here, Dean, but thank you very much for coming on and talking through all that really serious stuff. Stay with us. We're going to be debating